I'll be in bed and I'll be like logically thinking about stuff like, just noise, just a noise, and then, but what if it wasn't? Mm-hmm. What if it was a ghost? Maybe it is a ghost. It's not a ghost, but it might be a ghost. It could be a ghost. Why don't you have a look? Don't have a look. It would scare you. But I'm going to have a look. And then you have a look and it's just like, ah!
I felt like there was someone standing in the doorway. And I felt like it was somebody who was really mad at me.
Hello and welcome to Weird Tales and the Unexplainable. I'm your host today, Bob Shoy. With me as always, these two, Adam Tiss.
Hello.
And Beef.
Alright.
And today we're going to be talking about haunted houses.
Ooh.
Yeah. Massive thanks, before we get started, massive thanks to everyone listening for our continually rising numbers and all the nice feedback we've heard from everyone, and we appreciate that. So, keep contacting us and talking to us. Email unexplainableuk@mail.com. That's that.
Great.
Tiss, let me just pull up a story. Someone sent us a message on the email about their haunted house they lived in. And they lived there for about 3 years. And so it's a massive story I can't go into on this podcast, but it's really interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to their account on the blog for anyone who wants to read it. It's just basically 3 years of this guy living in this house with all this stuff constantly happening. But one of the things that happened was that he would experience sleep paralysis, which he doesn't experience anywhere else and hasn't before. But in this house, he would experience sleep paralysis. Yeah. Which was interesting because it ties into our last episode.
Yeah.
And we talked about it happening in certain locations, and that's what he experienced.
Interesting.
So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link on the blog, weirdtalesandtheunexplainable.blogspot.com. Go on there, and you can read this guy's account if you're interested. Now, on with the show, unless you guys have anything to chuck in.
Next show, I am going to be looking at demon possession, so which has been a long anticipated show, particularly for me anyway.
For me.
So I'm hoping to interview and to bring some material with me, but if any of you guys listening have any stories, then please get in touch, because I'm sure we'd love to share, or even if you want to share one live as we record, that'd be awesome. But please get in touch.
Yeah, definitely. And anything as well, if you just keep messaging us, because even if we don't get to use your stories, we love hearing them, and we might use them way down the line. Sometimes I hold them back if a more relevant episode comes up. For example, today we talked to Janine from Minnesota, who messaged us about her haunted house after our very first episode. And Tish, you're right.
What are you laughing at?
Laughing. Yeah.
We'll play our conversation later in the show. I'll put it later in the show, but sometimes I hold back your messages and then we contact you again when it's more relevant, or use them later. Tiss, what's going on, mate?
I've just got the giggles.
Oh my god.
This has been going on all afternoon. We've had to hold off recording because Tiss won't stop laughing.
I'm starting again. Hello and welcome. You know what? I was almost going to say hello and welcome to
Ghost Story of the Week. Oh, really?
Because this episode is basically all Ghost Story of the Week.
Yeah.
Alright.
So I probably won't have... Well, any of the stories you like in this episode, consider that this week's Ghost Story of the Week.
Awesome.
So yeah, we spoke to Janine. We'll play that later on. But for now, let's get started. Guys, what do you think about haunted houses in general?
I'll start because Tish is laughing again. What is wrong with you? You're like a child.
No, this should be on Weird Tales and Unexplainable. When your brain just throws at you the funniest things.
What is it that's making you laugh?
Just, mate, there's a million things that I can't stop thinking about. Just making me laugh.
Oh. It's really good that we're not talking about anything serious.
It's so hard. I'm not laughing at anything on the show.
He's
either.
going to come
It's
to your demonic
totally-
possession show like this.
Yeah.
No, he's not. Trying to live with a child.
Oh god, I need to stop. I need to put out of my head any funny thoughts.
To answer the question, you answer.
Answer
tell-
me seriously. Get your head in the game.
Yeah.
Haunted houses.
Yeah.
What do you think about them?
I've never been to a haunted house.
Right.
Never been to a house or heard about any. Apart from obviously we spoke to Janine before.
Well, that's the first instance of a haunted house you've ever heard of.
Yeah, pretty much. Real life. I've heard of it on TV, but everyone's heard about it on TV. So yeah, not a lot. I don't know any. I'm not very well versed in the.
What are your views on it? Like when you hear the stories that are out there, or the stuff you read online,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on it? What do you
I
think?
said to Bob earlier, the ghost thing. My understanding of it, and the typical way it's like a specific guy, like Derek Acorah. Ever seen Derek Acorah TV shows?
Yeah.
Just that type of ghost, that type of mythos about ghosts is, to me, doesn't strike me as real
Yeah, but he's
or realistic.
Derek Acorah kind of. I used to watch some of his stuff, and then he started like putting voices together as the ghost, like talking as the ghost, and putting on a funny accent, and his face would scrunch up, and I just couldn't watch it anymore.
Well, he's a proven fraud, right?
Yeah.
Is he?
One time they made up a load of stories about a ghost in this house. Said, oh yeah, we think it's haunted by this, like, spirit who used to live here, and it's a young boy and all this stuff. They made it all up. And then he started to, oh yeah, I can feel him. Oh yeah, there's a young boy here, and he started going through all this stuff, and then they were like, gotcha.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That was the most haunted crew, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's most haunted. The thing that I didn't believe about it is that most of his ghosts were Scouse, which is just not consistent enough. No, what Janine said about ghosts actually was totally like, yeah, cool.
Well, we'll come to that later.
But ghosts, like the word, has got a stigma about it, which makes you think of the typical thing. You know when people say God and they believe of the beady guy in the sky?
Yeah.
It's like that for ghosts. It's like when you say ghosts, I think of people that existed.
the spirit of some particular dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that the ego travels with you after death.
One thing that I've got two thoughts really. One is that I do believe in a lot of people that have these experiences. I do believe, a lot of them say, oh, it's linked to, I don't know, maybe someone was murdered there, or maybe something awful happened, or someone lived there before that was like practiced witchcraft or something. Like, I do believe that. I do believe that stuff that when you have somewhere that's haunted, it's for a reason.
So the bad energy of a misdeed in that location can linger.
Yeah, I think it's almost like the spirits or whatever's there have like a reason to be there. Like they have almost like authority to be there because something has happened which has caused them to be there in the first place. The other thing, which is less serious, this is just something that makes me laugh.
Right.
When you hear some of these stories, you get when people say, "Oh, like I heard these noises, and then I heard them in different places in the house," or it's like. I wonder why ghosts are kind of having a little laugh with us.
Yeah, I always wondered that as well. But then some people say, oh, it's a mischievous spirit or it's a malicious spirit, and it's different.
Yeah, I do think, like I say, I do genuinely think that some of these things are real and they're quite terrifying. But I think, and it's the same with movies as well, when you see a spirit in a movie, they always seem to just be like playing with the person. Or... like, why are there no modern ghosts?
It's always a man in a Victorian
house.
It's
like, he's in a Victorian house and he had Victorian clothes on, or he's like a 70s ghost with an afro.
You never get a skateboarding kid in the lounge.
Get a grunge emo kid. Sat in the corner.
Yeah, that's
they wouldn't
true.
really
And
do anything.
It'd be like, oh, I could hear like Victorian music jangling away. You never hear like some Nirvana blaring from.
You're trying to say that there's no Kurt Cobain ghost?
Well, I wasn't even making that relevant just because you said a grunge ghost. I was like, oh, is this you can hear his Walkman as he walks past.
His MIDI disc player.
Oh, the ghost of Minidisc is haunting the house.
I found a Betamax in my cupboard, and it must have been a ghost because I don't own a Betamax.
And so, well, you kind of started discussing it anyway. But ghosts in general.
Yeah.
My next question was going to be, do you believe in ghosts? But we sort of discovered that.
Yeah.
It's a hard question because it's like, well, I believe in something.
Yeah.
But it's what do you believe?
For me to believe in ghosts, you have to tell me what you mean by ghosts, and then I'd say whether I believe in that form of ghosts, because it's such a term that can be, when I say ghosts, I mean something. You say ghosts, you mean something else, and I can't.
Well, you've already said you don't believe in what people deem as the classic.
Yeah. Well,
version of what
I'm not ruling it out, but it just doesn't interest me. Because nothing, no, but nothing is like that type of ghost story. Like ghost stories interest me, but that theory on it bores me.
Okay,
because it's not an interesting enough theory. It's very human. It's like very basic. It's like, oh yeah, it must be that person, and this and that. Like it's not far out enough.
It's strange that I would be doing the Haunted Houses episode, as I don't believe in ghosts. But I love a ghost story, and I love hearing weird tales and the unexplainable, which is why we do the podcast.
Yeah.
I love hearing it. I love being able to be like, well, I can't explain that. That's weird. But don't necessarily believe in it. But that isn't to discredit anyone or to say, well, I don't believe what you're telling me. I believe what you're telling me.
Yeah.
I just don't believe it's a ghost. But that's what we're talking about. Because for me, like we've said, between us, we have a Christian, an atheist, and an agnostic. Now, for me, as an atheist, to believe in the classical form of what a ghost is would be to believe in the afterlife, and to believe in the afterlife would be for me to believe in a religion, right?
Yeah, for you to believe in a ghost would mean you'd have to believe in an awful lot more.
Exactly.
In order for your whole ideology to work. So,
exactly.
Whereas, for me, I guess I kind of agree with Tiss in the sense that, do I believe in ghosts when people think of ghosts? No. I don't believe that Victorian people hang around. It's almost like they're waiting. It's like they go to the centre and they've got someone stood there who's like the oldest ghost, the elder ghost, and they're like, "Right, guys, we need you to go to this location. Got a new family that moved in this week." And they go, "All right, okay." And they go, "Okay, we need you to go and just cause a scene. Maybe slam a few doors, turn the lights on and off." Like when it's stuff like that, I can't. I don't know. And I think a lot of people admit this when they share their stories. They say, to be honest, it was probably just the plumbing.
Yeah.
Like, but I can't believe that there would just be like a mischievous. I don't know. Maybe in the afterlife, people do get a bit bored, but I like I've said before, I do believe in spirits. I do believe we are all spirits in different bodies.
Okay.
But yeah.
To play devil's advocate, actually, it's worth noting that we could all be wrong as well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's the great thing, though, right?
Yeah.
It could be. What would you do if you, when you die, you realise...
Yeah, oh God, they're giving me a Victorian uniform.
Oh my God!
I've got to go down.
It was. No, but it was. And you're just like, I was wrong about that.
To be fair, if that did happen, if classical. I died and there was just a bloke stood there and you're like, alright, I'm Elder Ghost. And I can imagine it to be like failed actors,
right?
And they just I don't know, be a laugh, I suppose. I'd like to team up with you guys.
Thing is, it would be you'd be like, well, I suppose this isn't the worst way to spend an afterlife. I get to just pull pranks on people. I get to be like punked, but that's going to get boring pretty quick.
Yeah,
I'd have to evaluate the rules of being a ghost, because if I could go anywhere, then I'd just go to the
see the world,
space.
Yeah,
I'd go to space. That's why there's no ghosts. The Victorians ones don't believe in space.
Well, they didn't travel
so they
much
stayed on Earth, and then all of us, we knew about space, so we just went, nah, fuck it, we'll start in Jupiter and carry on.
All the cavemen ghosts died and went, what do you mean space?
Wow, that's amazing.
Mental.
I've never heard anyone say a caveman ghost either.
Yeah.
It's always Victorian.
Or an animal.
And like you say, it's really not to discredit anyone.
Victorian.
It's just, if you've seen someone, or you've seen a shadow and they were wearing Victorian clothing, that's fine.
My dad one time took a picture while he was fishing across the lake in the morning, and in the picture, there's a figure, a man that wasn't there. And I've been fascinated by this photo because, like I said, I don't believe in ghosts, but I know there wasn't a guy there, so I'm like, what the fuck's up with this picture? But he was wearing Victorian clothes.
Maybe.
I'm going to try and dig that picture out. If I can find that picture on my hard drive, I'll put it on the blog as well.
I think you've shown me that picture.
Yeah, I've shown you that. It's a ghost standing on the other side. It's
on the other side of the river.
Yeah, you can't see. It's from like the knees upwards. It's almost like he's coming out of the water on the other side of the lake.
Yeah.
Here's another theory that I just thought of, actually. The whole parallel universe. Maybe, time is like layered, and our time with the Victorian time is matching up parallel, and then
we're seeing echoes.
Yeah, we're seeing the Victorians, and then the Victorians saw, their, I don't know.
Maybe that's it. Maybe in Victorian times they were seeing us sitting around podcasting or something.
Yeah. No. Because they would have invented podcasts. They can only see the past, though.
Having said that, Victorian clothing is just really plain, isn't it? So maybe it's not the Victorian. Maybe it's just
maybe it's just very like dressed down in the afterlife. It's still very plain.
Funeral.
No Nikes.
Having said that,
because everyone's buried in a suit.
Yeah, exactly. If we start burying people in like clown outfits, that'd be
Clown
terrifying. A clown ghost.
Yeah.
Oh no! I take that back. I don't want to see that.
Okay, moving on to my next question. So if we're saying we don't believe in a certain type of what a ghost is, or we do, or whatever, you can't deny that some people have stories or have lived in, or there's some houses where events seem to happen all the time. Mm-hmm. Some houses where throughout history had so many strange occurrences. So if that's the case, what makes a house haunted? What can make that one location be the location where everything will happen and one other house will have nothing? Because that's what interests me.
What do you mean? So why is it buy local to that?
Yeah, like why, if there's no such thing as a ghost or no such thing as someone haunting a specific house, what makes certain houses have a recurring number of events happening in them, so strange things happening in specific locations?
Well, that could be where the dimension tear is the thinnest.
It's thin, yeah?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's just that theory. There could be a million reasons.
Yeah, well, it's hard to give an answer.
All of them unprovable.
I don't have an answer because this is kind of this question is what kind of made me want to do the show. If I don't believe in ghosts but want to do a show about ghosts,
yeah,
and people have all these tales of certain houses or legendary tales, I'm going to go into some of the most haunted places soon. Well, if that's not a ghost, what makes that location a haunted location? Why strange things constantly in that one place?
Maybe the bad energy.
That's it. We don't,
builds up and creates anomalies.
Is it the negative energy? Because a lot of it is like something very bad happened in that place, and maybe the energy, it's not necessarily spirits or ghosts or anything. Negative energy lingers in a location.
Yeah, I think for me that's what works, I suppose. If we're going to talk about haunted houses, and if it's like a recurring thing where you get people to say, "Oh, this stuff happens year upon year upon year." We at church a few years ago, we once had this guy come in, and he came in through. We have like an area of our church which like caters to like people in our area in need of like clothes and all sorts of stuff. And we had this one guy that came in. And he just started talking about, I get all these like ghosts keep coming into my house, and like I feel like my house is haunted. And it was like months he'd come in, and and he mentioned it. And we then found out that he like did him and his friends would. I don't like the word play because I don't think it describes what you do, but they'd like play a Ouija board.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh well, there you go. That's your problem. Stop doing that. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't get the end of that story, but that for me that works. It's not like the cleanest explanation, but it's something.
Yeah. So I guess the other question would be, how would a Ouija board open this portal, unlock these vibes?
You know what, I'm going to go into that in a future episode. I have an idea for doing a show all about contact with the afterlife, seances, Ouija boards, all that stuff. Psychic mystics, whatever they're called. I don't know.
Psychic mediums.
Yeah, mediums, all that stuff. I'm going to do an episode all about that.
Awesome.
Don't get excited because that's going to be way down the line. I've got a few I need to do first.
Yeah.
Now, shall we play our conversation with Janine now so we can get someone's personal experience and then we'll go into something else?
Sounds
okay,
good.
So just before we started recording, we had a call from Janine, who I think is from Minnesota. I said earlier on the show. We're going to play that conversation right now.
Hello, this is Janine calling.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
So you actually emailed us just after we did our very first episode about you lived in a couple of houses that you said were haunted.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about them? I haven't told Tiss or Beef anything about the stories or anything. I'm the only one that's read them. Can you just tell us a little bit about those houses?
Okay. Well, the first one, let's see. Well, okay. So my boyfriend and I moved into this house. We were renting it, and it was just had a really creepy vibe to it from the very beginning. But we we didn't really want to rent that house, but we were pressed to get out of the place where we were living at the time. And the first night we slept in the house, I heard I woke up to this giant crash, like on the floor above me in the attic. It sounded kind of like a piano or something that had crashed to the ground. And there was all these scratching noises, like or like an animal was scratching on the floor. And, I would hear those every night, pretty much. And we looked in the attic. We thought maybe there were animals squirrels getting in. And we never found any evidence of squirrels coming in. So, it was just kind of a creepy house, and we knew we were probably not going to live there for very long.
What was in the attic? Was there things in there before you moved in?
No, there was no stuff in there. It was just like an empty space. It had storage cabinets built into the walls. But other than that, there was nothing. It was totally clean and, empty.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
And I'd lay in the room where we had the TV and stuff, and I just kind of stretch out and close my eyes. And with the lights out, because I was getting headaches a lot, and my boyfriend would be in the kitchen just doing his thing. And when I opened my eyes from my nap, I would see orbs in the air, like little colored balls, just sort of floating and moving and traveling, and they were all different colors, and they would come towards me. They sort of seemed like they were checking me out. It was really weird. And one time I was sitting in an empty room in the house because we didn't really even unpack our stuff because we knew that we didn't want to stay there. And I was just sitting in the middle of the room, sort of looking at it. I was thinking about should I unpack, should I decorate this room? And I heard this tapping on the wall, in one place, and then I heard it in another spot, and it kind of started ping-ponging all around the walls and the ceiling until there were so many taps going so fast it was like a popcorn popper, like I was inside of one. It was really bizarre, and it wasn't just the house settling or making noises or anything like that.
You said how long did you live in this house for?
Not very long. Just about maybe, I can't remember, maybe about 4 or 5 months.
So, and as soon as you moved in, you sort of knew you didn't want to stay there?
Right away. Yeah, right away. And the landlady was really creepy too. We got a really bad vibe from her, and she was sort of mean. She didn't live in the area. She lived in Florida, but she sent us really weird messages and was kind of wanted to always change the rules and the rent and stuff like that. So she wasn't good either, and she kind of creeped us out.
Okay.
And then, finally, when we were moving, we decided this is the thing that really the freaky part of the story. We were moving our stuff out, and we went back to just check. We went back to the attic to just check because we had put a few boxes up there, and we just wanted to make sure we didn't miss anything. And I opened one of the cabinets, there's the storage cabinets built into the wall, just to see if we had anything in there. And there's this piece of cardboard, and it had drawing on it. And I pulled it out, and it was a big piece of cardboard cut in the shape of a tombstone. And someone had drawn on it with crayon, and it said, "Rest in hell, my dead husband Robert."
Wow.
and some other stuff and like some really weird symbols. It was just horrifying. And then we just like left and never came back.
So the hey Janine, it's Beef.
Hey.
Hey, the tombstone cardboard thing that you guys found, was that
Yeah.
So you didn't find it earlier when you first moved in. This was like when you were moving out.
Right. Yeah. We never found it because, like, I think we had when we first checked out the attic, we looked in a couple cabinets because they were all up and down the walls, and they were the ones we looked in were empty, and we never bothered to look in that particular one.
Wow.
And we never used them. So yeah, it was just like a weird thing.
So you think the house itself was haunted?
Yeah, my theory is the landlady, because she was just like, I don't want to talk too long about her, but she was just like, seemed like a really bad person, possibly doing some bad things. And I have a feeling that she like got someone, or maybe herself, like put a curse on her husband, and or maybe he died. And I think that like that noise in the attic was connected to that cardboard and him, and some bad thing between the two of them.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if it was a ghost per se, but it was some kind of bad energy thing.
This is something I'm discovering a lot, where a lot of people who say a house is haunted or has strange sightings or whatever in it, it normally seems to revolve around something bad happening in that location. And
yeah.
You agree with that, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. I think just based on the woman and just the all the interactions we had with her, you know, she just seemed like really wrong, you know, and like if there were like people who were like witches or doing bad spells, she would fit the type.
You definitely think the landlady was connected in some way to the haunting?
Yeah, for sure. I guess it's a gut feeling thing, but I think so.
Okay.
What about your boyfriend? Yeah. Did he experience anything else?
No. He would always sleep through all the noise. And he never saw the orbs that I saw. And I was alone that when I was hearing all this massive tapping going on. But he picked up on the creepy feel. He didn't like living there either.
The orb thing, how often would that happen, or did that happen only once, or how many times?
That would happen regularly. Like, it seemed like a routine, because every night I'd come home from work, lay down in this room, and just have a rest, and I'd see them pretty much every time.
And was it always in the same place?
Yeah, it was. I would always be laying on this sort of day bed, and they would sort of be floating all around the room. They kind of filled the room, but it was just in that room. Maybe because it was dark, I didn't see them anywhere else. But they were in that room always.
Okay.
And when you heard the tapping noises, was it you were in your living room when you could hear the tapping noises that sounded like popcorn? Was that?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, how long did that last for? Do you know? Like, was it quite a long time?
It seemed kind of long, but it was probably like a minute or two.
Mm.
It seemed like forever when it happened, but I think it was probably just like a minute or so.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's really weird.
Yeah, it was scary. The weird thing, it was just like, it felt so bad to be there. Like, you know, it was, you know when you just have a really bad feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to explain it, but you just feel like I can't be here.
You can't really explain the feeling, but I'm sure everyone's experienced it, where you walk into a building and you have just a sense of unease around you.
Yeah, it's a very palpable kind of feeling.
Mm.
Kind of really physical.
Did you say you lived in another house where things happened?
Yes, I did, and in that one, like that one, that was an actual ghost that I actually caught a glimpse of once.
Okay.
Wow.
And actually, after my boyfriend and I, we knew we wanted to get out of that house. We bought a house, and this was the house that we bought. And so we had lived in the spooky house, bought a house, and moving into it. So let's see, like the first thing that happened, and this was like an old house, really big, and it was like a real fixer-upper. It had been owned by an old man. It had like carpeting everywhere, like shag carpeting and paneling on the walls and tons of wallpaper, and it was really dirty. And we were starting to like work on it, and I was doing a lot of scraping of wallpaper. And one day I was doing wallpaper, and I started hearing this like pounding sound, and it sounded like someone was pounding on a pipe. So I kind of just didn't think of anything, because I thought maybe it was just the plumbing making noises, because that happens sometimes. but it kept kind of happening. So then it kind of sounded like it was in the basement. So I went to the basement, and it stopped. And so then I went back to the wallpaper, and pretty soon I heard it again, but this time it sounded like it was coming from the upstairs. So I went to the upstairs, and as soon as I got up there, it stopped, and then it started down in the basement. So it seemed like it was trying to get me to go find it, but then it was like teasing me, you know? Mm. And I would hear that like pretty much every time I worked on the house, I would hear that pounding sound. But this was probably the scariest. I think it might have been like the first week we were there, and I was in a room, and I was painting in the room, and I had my back to the door, and the door was open. It was a bedroom, and all of a sudden, like, I felt like there was someone standing in the doorway, and I felt like it was somebody who was really mad at me. It was really weird, and like all the hairs rose up on the back of my neck, and like that has never happened to me before, and so like I never knew what that meant when people said, you know, like my hair stood up on end, but it really did, and it was like electrifyingly scary, and I turned around and I felt like it wasn't like a wind, but I felt like something rushing at me, like I felt like someone was coming at me. I got out of there really fast, and I was standing in the hallway, just like kind of freaking out. And then I looked into the bathroom, and the lights were on in the bathroom. There were like two kind of lights like on either side of the medicine cabinet, and they were like sizzling. They're making this like sizzling and bubbling sound, and they were kind of flashing from like bright to dim. And I was like, oh my God. And I yelled down to my boyfriend, I'm like, are you doing anything with the power right now? And he was like, no, I'm watching TV. And so I'm like, whoa. And I went into the bathroom, and I was looking at the lights, and I was facing the mirror of the medicine cabinet, and I saw like a face behind me in the mirror. And it was like kind of an old lady face, and it was like had this horrible like leer on it. And I just went out of there, and I never wanted to go in that room again after that. Like I didn't finish painting it, and I was just freaked out about that room.
And could you actually make out the facial features?
Yeah, kind of. Like it looked like a person. They were kind of shadowy, but I could see that it was like kind of a wrinkly face, and kind of a certain like sort of hooked shaped nose, and I could tell it was a woman, and there was sort of like some scraggly hair. I couldn't really see a body or anything. It was like a face over my shoulder, so that's kind of all I saw was the head.
And so you feel like this house was haunted by that one particular spirit?
Well, I didn't necessarily think that right at that time, but eventually, yeah, I did. I didn't suspect like it was a lady, that particular spirit, because that was the only time I ever saw like a person. But like I kept hearing all that pounding all the time when I would work on the house.
Like the other house, did you feel like you had to get out of this house, or did you stay there for quite a while?
Well, we bought the house, so we've kind of felt like, I just sort of felt like, what are we going to do? Like try to sell it again? That would be kind of a bother. And we wanted to fix it up and make it our house. My feeling was like, oh, this house has weird stuff going on, but I'm just going to kind of ignore it, you know?
So I've got to admit, if I'd have seen like that face in the mirror, I'd have left the house. I'd have probably burnt the house down. So
I know, but you know, like it was our first house, and
yeah.
I don't know, like all my life though, I've like sort of seen weird stuff like that and had weird experiences. So for me, it was sort of like, well, that stuff goes on. Like,
oh, do you think it's you in particular? Do you think ghosts tend to gravitate towards you in some way?
I think that maybe they do. I think for sure that I notice those kind of anomalies more than other people.
Okay.
You know, like I don't know. My mom was like that too. She would always have weird stuff that happened to her like that. So I guess I was a little bit used to it. Although this one, like when I saw that lady and I felt like my hackles go up, like that was the worst scare I ever had from any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that sounds
and that was
terrifying.
over my lifetime.
That does sound horrible. Did your boyfriend so you say that you feel like you experience stuff like this quite often. Does your boyfriend experience it on a similar level, or was it a bit less dramatic for him?
He would notice some of the things like that I noticed too. Like in our kitchen there would be this. All of a sudden there would be like a little puddle of water on the floor, and he would find those too. And like we'd mop them up and dry it off, and like an hour later it would be back. And like he would encounter that a lot, and he looked for all the pipes and things and could never find there was any pipes or anything near.
The house you live in now, how is that? Is that okay?
Yeah, I live in an apartment now. Actually, you know what? I used to see like a weird little boy sitting on the stairs, like just for a flash, when I would come up my stairs.
That's
and like a little kid from in 70s clothes. But I haven't seen him for a long time. I kind of forgot about him.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, weird.
This boy, did you feel like he was negative, had negative energy around him, or he was more friendly, or what?
No, you know, he seemed like my vibe that I got from him was that he was like a nice little kid who was like just waiting for someone to come home in the building.
Okay.
And yeah, it seemed a little sad, like he was just kind of waiting for somebody.
So what if someone says a ghost or a spirit, what exactly do you think that is?
I think there's different things they can be. Like I've sort of been researching and reading like about like multi-dimensions and stuff, and like maybe some of the things that we experience like that you know we call ghosts might be like something happening in a parallel universe.
Yeah, like a shadow from somewhere else. You
know, like, and if for some reason the separation is kind of thin or at that point, or like I think that sometimes can be it. Mm-hmm. But then I also think that like there can be like emotional imprints of people in places that they were attached to. I think that's like another kind of ghost where they are like literally haunting a place that they, you know, don't want to leave or feel safe. You know, for some reason they want to be there. So that's kind of my two theories. I think a lot of it could be the parallel universe thing where like you're just seeing something out of time. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, Tiss also believes that as well. That's like Tiss's main theory, I think, isn't it, Tiss?
No.
Oh.
Oh, right.
No, I don't disbelieve parallel universes. That's not my main.
Oh, okay. Sorry, ignore that.
Yeah. We're just trying to get Tiss off the floor. Whenever someone calls in, Tiss hides because he's nervous to talk to people on the phone.
Maybe the stories are scaring him.
I feel like too many cooks spoil the broth, and I think you guys did such a good job. I don't want to interject.
Thanks, man. We're gonna have to move on now, I think, Janine. But thanks for calling in. We really appreciate hearing your stories.
Oh, absolutely. I love your show. It's really great.
Thank you for listening. We appreciate
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Janine.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we're back. Oh, Tiss is drink his coconut water.
Not quite back.
And we're back. So that was our conversation with Janine. Like I was saying to you guys, I was reluctant to ask too many things to her before we'd had a chance to discuss things amongst ourselves. But what did you think to the stuff she was saying?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I think some of it was, and this is why it was important to not discredit what she was saying at all, because it sounds horrible. But some of it was interesting to see that it was like there was a whole range of stuff that went on. You know, some of it was just a few noises, and then nothing really happened. It was just, but then the part in her living room where she could hear all the like tapping, and it got like higher and higher and higher until it was like almost like popcorn around her. That's weird. And then she casually dropped in the little boy at the end.
Yeah, that's
like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
So I fair play to her. I'd have freaked out and moved way before she did.
Well, the face in the mirror is the one.
Yeah, that'd be it for me.
We talked about it on shows before, where we say a mirror or a window.
It just seems classic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, we've
if
seen
that
it
happened in a computer simulation game, I would not play that game again. If
that
happened in real life.
Yeah, exactly. When it has
I mean,
happened.
there you go. That's...
Like, I remember playing Fahrenheit years ago, and there's a bit where you close the mirror and there's a face behind you.
Yeah.
I had to stop playing the game for like an hour and then go back to it, and then remember to not look in the mirror.
Stop playing the game of living there.
Yeah.
But
it's like you say, some stuff sounds dramatic and some stuff's just very minor. And you know, some stuff you could say, okay, well, the bang in, you say, oh, okay, that could be the plumbing. She said that herself. Maybe it's the plumbing. And then you can say, well, I don't think it's the plumbing because of all this other stuff that happened there that I can't explain. Maybe it's linked in, but maybe it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it makes you question things that seemed more innocent.
Yeah, and I think, just the feeling, like when she explained when she was painting, and then that feeling that she got of fear, like you can't explain that feeling. I've had it a couple of times. I don't know if you guys have, but
we did sort of discuss it on.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it.
Yeah,
but I just you can't, and there's no way to explain it. And when you're in that moment, you're very aware of what's around you. Even if you look around and it's not there, it feels like there's something right there in front of you, but you're the only one. So I would be interested, maybe if her boyfriend came up the stairs and saw there was nothing there, maybe he wouldn't have felt it. But yeah, it was really interesting.
Another interesting thing she said was about she felt like the first place, she felt specifically like that was a curse. Which I haven't looked into any other stories where it's like someone said, I think it was a curse.
Interesting.
So that's not something I had thought about before. She had that feeling, and that the thing she found in the loft about the dead guy or whatever, it's very strange.
Yeah, the couple tombstone.
Yeah, that's a really strange thing to find.
That was a little bit unsettling.
Like, it's okay to find when you're moving out. It's like, well, at least I'm going. You find that the day you move in. Oh, great.
Yeah, I'm here for a while now.
Another thing it could be, like when she said about the landlady, it could be her, and this is like way out there on the things, but like it could be her channeling bad vibes towards that house through her memories. And it could be through resonance in frequency,
not even
creating those things. Well, yeah, not intentionally. Yeah, she wouldn't know what she's doing, obviously, but through her own. If she had bad experience with that house, she'd obviously think on it, and maybe that would create a resonance.
And she even mentioned possible witchcraft. She said she seemed like the sort of person who would practice witchcraft, which is a whole other topic which I'd love to talk about on a future show, or one of us to do a show on witchcraft.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't do it. I would rather listen.
I would love it. Yeah. That's us dominating beef because we both want to listen to some witchcraft stories.
Researching that would be intense, man.
Yeah.
I just want to take the information and run with it.
It's really strange.
I did a bit on witch doctors, so I'll just do the other side of the coin.
The other one.
Yeah,
we could visit Pendle Hill, where they did all the witchcraft. That's in the UK. We could visit that.
That sounds delightful.
Creepy place. Anyway, moving on. Have you? Well, you've already answered this for me. You've never lived in or visited something you would deem to be a haunted house?
Yeah, I've never experienced haunted houses or feeling like there's a ghost around. But yeah, I've had plenty of times where demon possession is different, but I suppose it's the closest I've ever come to feeling like that. I've never been in a house and experienced it.
Well, a lot of people would say haunted houses, they sometimes say, well, it's spirits, but some people say it's demons. Like we said with the sleep paralysis, some people think you're seeing spirits, some people think you're hallucinating, some people think you're seeing demons. So there's a fine line between spirits and demons. They normally go hand in hand. People think it's one or the other in these things. You're both wrong. You've both been to a haunted house.
Your
You've
mum's.
been to my mum's house.
I always think about that when you say about haunted houses.
I was just about
but
to
then
say, apart from your mum's,
I
haven't
never
really
experienced any haunted experiences in that house.
Well, I guess, I don't know, I think the reason I didn't mention your mum's, and I was going to say it as an afterthought at the end of my sentence, like, I have been to your mum's, is because I think maybe once or twice, when we've been there a few times, once or twice I might have woken up in the night and needed the toilet, but probably thought, I don't really fancy walking down that hallway. Yeah. But yeah, nothing like what you explained with Jibs.
That feeling of uneasiness we talked about, I find sometimes I will have that at my mum's house at night. Now, like I say, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't know what haunted house is, but the reason I'm like, well, what makes certain things happen in certain places? Because I can't deny that some places have strange things that happen in them, because I've experienced many strange things in my mum's house, and I always feel uneasy when I'm there, but I don't necessarily think that's a ghost that lives there. The strange thing is, I visited the churchyard near to my mum's house.
All right.
Bewcastle Cross is quite a famous place, but that's not far from my mum's house. And in the graveyard of Bewcastle Cross, there's a little tombstone of someone that died in my mum's house.
Really?
That was only a child, like a little girl, which is weird. I don't believe in ghosts, but it's weird that young girl died there, and some of the things that have been experienced in that house are very childlike.
Right, okay, yeah.
So, very strange. Now, last week I talked about the thing that me and Jibs experienced with the drawers opening and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, let's just talk about some of the stuff that's happened in my mum's house.
Go on.
Okay, so other times me and Jibs have stayed there.
Mm-hmm.
We've laid in bed at night. Jibs isn't my boyfriend, by the way. This sounds like he's my boyfriend. He's just a very good friend of mine. I live with my girlfriend. But we've laid there at night and heard, the cutlery drawers downstairs. The sound of cutlery. Everyone's asleep. You hear the sound of cutlery, that distinctive clanging of knives and forks, whatever. We've heard that. We've seen my sister sleepwalking.
Oh.
Now, my sister looks like a creepy little girl. She looks like the girl from The Ring when she was a kid. And when we were sort of like 16, how old would my sister have been? Young.
Yeah, like 6, 7, 8.
Right. Even younger than that, maybe. And she would sleepwalk. And sometimes we'd wake up and she would just be standing at the end of our bed, eyes shut, almost like in a trance. Now, that might be sleepwalking, like you say. Oh, that's probably just the plumbing in the other story. But when everything else strange is happening in there, it makes you feel like it's related. Especially when we've seen her like talking to people that aren't there in her sleep in the night. The night that all the drawers opened, that night, we found my sister sleepwalking, standing, talking to a wall about my handspan away from her nose and telling someone that isn't there that they shouldn't have done that.
Well, that really freaked me out.
That's what makes it creepy. And I'm like, well, what the fuck is that about? When I don't believe in ghosts.
Yeah.
But you're right, because we've all been there. I think the reason I felt so uneasy at your mum's house when we've been there is because you feel really vulnerable that it's just one house in the middle of this huge expanse of countryside.
It's like a haunted house from any haunted house.
Yeah, it's
film.
It's so typical, isn't it? It's like an old farmhouse, countryside farmhouse, and with really dark hallways. And
long dark hallways with mirrors and windows either side and stuff. It's right in Cumbria, right kind of Scottish border sort of area. So it's very desolate around, lots of fields around it, big old house, right on top of a hill of all places.
Yeah.
I couldn't live in that house. I was just thinking about that actually.
I did live in that house, and I don't live in that house now.
Yeah. But if someone gave you that house for free, would you live in it or would you sell it?
Well, I wouldn't want to live somewhere so desolate. I don't think.
True. I would.
It's so
but
far
not
away.
In that house. Not in that house.
Because it's haunted?
Because I am one of those people that I'll be in bed and I'll be like logically thinking about stuff like, just noise, just a noise. And then, but what if it wasn't? What if it was a ghost? Maybe it is a ghost. It's not a ghost, but it might be a ghost. It could be a ghost. Why don't you have a look? Don't have a look. It'll scare you. But I'm going to have a look. And then you have a look and it's just like, and then I don't know, I'm the sort of person that when we did the podcast I can't remember what it was, but I ran to my car.
That was after the first one.
That was the
After
first
the first one, okay. I ran to my car, I locked all the doors, I checked the back seat, and then I drove, and I was just like, this is ridiculous, but what makes me do that? Do you know what I mean?
Well, we sat in the van talking about some of the creepy stories talked about in the first one, and we were very creeped out then. At least I could walk into my house.
And then I had to
walked up into your car and you said you were scared.
Yeah.
What I will say is I really like... I could never live in London. That's too busy, it's too crazy, it's too many people.
Too many
but
ghosts.
I like too many Victorian ghosts. London's very Victorian. Yeah. I couldn't. When when I used to live in Stukely,
Mm-hmm.
so I grew up almost exactly directly opposite where Bob now lives.
Which is where we're recording right now.
So I spent 17 years in this village, and I'd often go and spend time like with friends in the summer and go up the park, and then walk back to my house quite late at night. And I always used to, because it's so quiet. Like at night, this is a really quiet place. There's like almost no traffic. There's no people really. So I always used to get really, really scared walking through because I didn't like the feeling of. I guess it's like that fun. Yeah, it's like a vulnerability type thing. So I like living in a town where it's like you feel like there's always something going on. And although I'm in a fairly quiet estate, like it's 2 minutes down the road and I'm in the middle of the town, and so yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. I don't. Yeah, and sometimes I find the drive back from here quite scary. If I'm driving back at night, I don't. It's a bit horrible.
All these lanes at night are very creepy.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the countryside in the UK has that creepy lane vibe. Guys, we had a little bit of a discussion. We've listened to a tale of haunted houses.
Mm-hmm.
I've had did a little bit of research, and I looked online for some of the most haunted houses.
Okay.
In the UK, the US, and the rest of the world.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep. I'm excited.
Right, I'm going to do the US first, because that's our biggest listenership.
That's awesome.
Right.
There's lots of Americans out there.
Now you're going to get disputes over what's the most and what's not. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to tell 5 that kept coming up, and a little bit about them. Okay, so tell me if you've ever heard of some of these. Some of these are quite famous. So this is in Kansas, the Sally House.
No. It looks really horrible.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of this one till yesterday.
This looks like a normal house, to be honest.
So the Sally House, named after the prankish little girl who haunted it, this house also contained a far more malevolent spirit of a woman who escalated so much in violence towards the male owner of the house that he and his family finally moved out of fear for his life. So,
okay. What? So is like violent?
Yes.
Like, so she haunts them violently.
Possibly poltergeist activity.
But what was Sally doing while this was going on?
Sally's the little girl.
Yeah, but what was she doing?
Don't know.
Pranking them.
Probably.
Not the time, Sally. Do you know what I mean?
Sally.
Not the time.
Hang on, whoa. So, who's the ghost?
Both. There's a little girl and a woman.
That's what I mean. So they're getting violently poltergeists, and then Sally's having a bit of a play. It's just like not that.
What's the difference between a poltergeist and a ghost?
A poltergeist will move things, chuck things.
Oh, okay. So a poltergeist is like a Stella Artois ghost, an angry, violent ghost.
Stella Artois.
Normally,
Stella Artois for people. It's just a beer which is notorious if you drink it in England. Like people
get in a
fight, get abusive.
Yeah. So poltergeists will move stuff around, and ghosts, normal ghosts, don't. You just see them or hear them. I don't know. But poltergeists are the ones that can move things.
Got it.
Okay. I am not going to linger too much on some of these locations because we've got loads. I've actually got 6 for the US.
Okay.
The Marshall House, used as a Union hospital in the Civil War. There's see ghosts of men in uniform walking around. Even sighted a man holding his own severed arm, seeking help to reattach it. And there's noises of children heard in there, and taps turning on and off. And guests have even awoken with their arms outstretched, as if a nurse was taking their pulse.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible.
Continuing, the St. Augustine Lighthouse in Florida. I've been kind of picky about this because I only wanted to include ones that I considered houses. So I'm not including castles or stuff like that.
No.
But I thought a lighthouse, well, people live there. I let a lighthouse through. Built in 1874, the still functioning lighthouse has become the home of several spirits over the course of its history. The ghosts of 2 little girls have been seen throughout the lighthouse. So too that of a woman who is often seen and heard crying and asking for help, and a former lighthouse keeper who frequents the basement.
Okay.
One very famous house which is apparently haunted in America. Do you know it?
Is it the Amityville house?
No, that did come up, but I don't know how haunted that is. It's more just like horrible things happened there.
Oh, okay.
There's a few places like that though, where it's like classically like horrendous things. Somewhere in Washington, D.C.
The White House.
The White House.
Really?
Yeah.
It's haunted.
Is it JFK?
I'll tell you who it is.
No, that was Texas. You won't have gone all the way back.
The lazy ghost.
Yeah.
You trying to say that JFK is a lazy ghost?
No, he was very proactive. That's why he got
That's why
shot.
he got shot. Okay.
President Andrew Jackson is thought to haunt the White House, his White House bedroom. Ghost of First Lady Abigail Adams seen floating through one of the hallways. Most frequently cited presidential ghost is that of Abraham Lincoln.
I was about to say Abraham Lincoln.
Eleanor Roosevelt once stated she believed she felt the presence of Lincoln watching her as she worked in the Lincoln bedroom.
Honest Abe.
Yeah.
AB Links.
So, and someone once claimed to have actually seen the ghost of Lincoln sitting on the bed pulling off his boots.
He was another great president that got shot.
Mm.
So there's no JFK ghost.
Not that I know of, but this is one which is probably the most renowned. It's the one I found the most interesting. The Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana.
No, I didn't know about any of these.
Most plantations have a checkered past thanks to their association with slavery.
Mm-hmm.
But this 18th century plantation stands above the rest. Several occupants and their children have died here, either from disease or murder, and it also is rumoured that a slave was lynched here after poisoning some of the family. Several distinct apparitions are repeatedly seen here, either walking through the house or across the grounds. There's so many, this is considered one of the most haunted houses in America. As many as 12 different ghosts have been reported. And there were 10 murders in this one building.
That's more than average, isn't it?
That is
10 murders, but 12 ghosts.
12 different ghosts have been spotted there.
But 10 murders.
But there was 10 murders in that place.
Doesn't add up.
Well, it doesn't mean just because you're a ghost doesn't mean you were murdered. There are other ways to die. Murder's like a shocking way to die.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, just quickly, some of the other haunted places in America, not necessarily houses, but they bear mention. The Bell Witch Cave in Tennessee, haunted by a witch. The Queen Mary Hotel in California, which has reported loads of ghosts. That's the big old ocean liner hotel.
All right.
The Gettysburg Battlefield, where people have claimed to see war reenactments in front of them. Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Kentucky, where people did experiments on some of the inmates. A young boy called Tim is seen there, and screams, voices, cold spots and footsteps have all been reported around this sanatorium. And probably the most haunted place in America, the Eastern State Penitentiary in Pennsylvania.
Oh, there we go.
Cackling heard from inside it. Footsteps, shadowy figures. A lot of people say due to the particularly harsh treatment of the inmates from when it was a functioning penitentiary. That's my haunted American places.
Okay. When you get really horrendous, I'd be interested to see if there's any Auschwitz ghosts.
Ah, you know what? Becca actually asked me this.
My wife she's a history teacher.
Yeah.
She went to Auschwitz at the end of last year, and I asked her that. I said, did it feel spooky? Did it feel haunted? I said it was obviously arguably the most horrendous place in the world. And she's like, no, not really. It's just
I've
historical.
been there though. When you walk around it in the day,
I guess if you
it's
did a
very-
nighttime
it's the middle
thing.
of the day and there's tourists everywhere.
Yeah.
Even with all that, it's still horrible. You have a horrible feeling, but I never felt haunted.
It's probably
or spooky.
oppressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just curious.
So that's some of the most haunted. You hadn't heard of any of those places?
No.
I didn't know the White House was haunted.
Yeah. So is the Tower of London.
I was there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Edinburgh
haunted.
Castle. A lot of these famous places are very haunted.
Yeah, Tower of London. Again, it's the kind of place it doesn't really. When I was walking around it was the middle of the day, loads of tourists there. It didn't really feel very. There was one tower which they closed, and that's where they used to carry out some of the more horrific. Because obviously they executed people on the lawn, in the middle of the court. But there were people that they just lock up in one tower for years and years and years, and that they don't open it to the public, and it's a bit creepy.
Apparently, it's haunted by the ghost of Henry VI.
Really?
And a white lady. You can smell perfume.
Was there a Henry IX?
Was there a Henry IX?
I've never heard of him if there was.
I don't know what kings we've had. I don't know royal history.
Potentially there could still be a Henry the Ninth if there hasn't been.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Isn't the kid now called Henry?
Is it really?
No, he's called George.
What about the other kid? That's a girl, isn't it?
She's called Charlotte.
He just made that up.
Shall I go to the UK?
Mm.
That's where we are. Now, it seems to me the top 5 haunted places in the UK. I'm going to tell you about 2 of them now. Salisbury Hall in Lancashire. They say it's haunted by the ghosts of Dorothy Southworth, whose lover was killed in front of her in the building. So they say she mourns him and roams through the building. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then number 4 I've got on here is Athelhampton House in Dorset, where you can hear tapping sounds in the wine cellar. There's a grey lady ghost. There's the ghosts of a pair of duelists. And even, Tis, you mentioned this earlier, animal ghosts. Mm-hmm. A ghost cat has been heard and seen in this building. Paws on the wood and stuff.
That's strange, because cats are usually quite inconspicuous. So,
and they have got 9 lives.
Clumsy.
So there's 9 times the amount of ghosts for each cat.
Wow.
But the top 3 that keep coming up again and again in terms of houses, again I'm not including castles and stuff, are the Woodchester Mansion, the Ancient Ram Inn, and Borley Rectory. Okay? Now the reason I don't want to go into these too much now is because I want to talk more in depth about these places on a different episode. My next episode, we're going to visit one of these places and we're going to record live from there because they're all within 2 hours of us.
Really?
But I don't know which one we're going to yet.
Cool.
You up for that?
Yeah, I'm well up for that.
You up for that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So a strange thought, actually. You know when you see animals every day,
you
never question if they're real or ghosts.
Right. So when you drive past a field of sheep, one of them might be a ghost.
Well, yeah. Interesting though, right? When a bird flies by, it's like, that's real. Could be a ghost.
Like we just skimmed past
that. Other haunted places in the UK, obviously not houses, but I'll just skim over them. Shillingham Castle in Northumberland, a blue boy is seen there, tortured child, Lady Mary is seen there, said the Tower of London. Pluckley in Kent is a village, and they say the whole village is haunted and full of ghosts.
Really?
12 to 16 different ghosts reported there, including a screaming man, a highwayman, and an old woman. Bury Pomeroy Castle in Devon, where a white lady and a blue lady are both seen, and Pendle Hill in Lancashire, which I mentioned earlier, where there was loads of witchcraft and things. Maybe we could try and visit that place when we talk about witchcraft. So that's the most haunted places in the UK and the US. Think about them.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all quite regular. There's nothing that you told us.
Yeah, that's the thing. Right. It's when I go through the list, I'm like rattling off because it's always like, and they've seen this ghost and this ghost and this ghost, and it's always like the blue lady, the white lady, a little boy.
Are you not going to give us any clues on the ones that you're thinking of taking us to?
The Ancient Ram Inn is apparently the most haunted building in the entire of Europe.
Europe's quite big.
Yeah.
So
we're going to see if we can have a look around.
I don't know if I'd be up for a stay overnight.
Well, no, you can't stay overnight. It's someone's house. He lives in it.
Thank God.
Does he report stuff all the time?
All the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's just move out. Like, how much? It
There's
sounds
so
like a
much
lot
stuff
of
in that house, but like I say, we'll get into that on another episode. On my next episode.
Yeah?
Yeah. My next episode is we're doing a visit.
Sweet.
Guys.
Yeah.
Our Skype's going to call in a minute. We've got another caller.
Sweet.
Okay, while we're waiting, guys, I'll tell you a little ghost story that someone sent me on Reddit.
Go for it.
This guy, he lived in a haunted house for a while, or what he deems to be, had a few things happen in it. He said he once saw a grey mist appear out of nowhere, twice, and on one occasion there was a silhouette that had formed, and even told him to shh when he had mistaken it for his mum. On the second occasion it had taken a form of what appeared to be a man, with no sound. I didn't communicate with it, and it was a little creepy. But he had plenty more bizarre experiences in that place as well. So that's the first one I'd heard where it was like actual mists forming and stuff.
Yeah, that seems a bit weird. Because you see that in photos, it looks like a mist.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Another guy from Australia who said he lived in a haunted house. He said he used to hear from the where his window was, you could see the window of the other part of the house because it was like a gap, and through that window there was an old piano in that room. And he said in his room he used to hear that piano playing, but when you'd look through the window there was no one at the piano.
Oh, that really freaked me out. Definitely have to move.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, and thanks for calling.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having us.
That's great. So we're talking about haunted houses today.
Yes.
And
Edward.
you've lived in a haunted house?
We have
We did.
together, for about a year and a half.
Okay. And
Yeah, maybe just under that.
how long ago was this?
4 years ago.
So it would be November 2010 to November,
Was the original
December
lease.
2011. Yeah.
We moved out and we could move right to Hamilton. So
Yeah.
So what it was a quadplex. It was a building that had 6 units.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, what were some of the things you experienced whilst living there?
Well, you were fine on your own.
Yeah, I never had any experiences on my own ever. And then he moved in, and very quickly things started to happen.
So it was
I
a
think the
slow
first thing,
process.
the first thing that happened was
Yeah, so we had a Christmas gift that was given to us. We were in school, so we went to university in a town called Guelph, and we got like a gift set. So it's a 12-ounce bottle of whiskey with a couple rocks glasses in it. So we took the whiskey, went to a party. We kept everything for alcohol relay on top of the fridge. So we just put this aluminum case with the rocks glasses in it on top of the fridge. And when you open the door, it goes right into the kitchen. So we opened the door, we went into the kitchen, and
when we came back from the party.
yeah, in the middle of the floor in the kitchen, the tin was open and glasses on either side, completely parallel, and that just
It
shook us.
really
As soon as we
scared.
walked in.
But we thought somebody was in the house at that point.
Yeah.
And we left right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, so we were the only ones that had keys, but then from then on, it was it ramped up where it got worse and worse and more often, and it just,
Then the second thing, I
crazy.
think, the light. Remember, we went to bed and the light switch was beside me,
Oh yeah,
and we would click the light switch off, and then the light switches would go on and off.
yeah. We had if we ever left dishes out ever, like we cleaned dishes, left them on the rack to dry. You would always hear the sound of porcelain as if the plates were going like this, rubbing together.
Yeah.
Or if we left empty beer bottles out, you would hear them clinging. And we had a cat, so at first you can only attribute so much to the cat, and then when it started getting more and more, we're like, okay. And the cat started acting weird.
Well, and
all
she
the
was
time.
an outside cat
Yeah.
too, so it would be scary when, like, above the bed there was a loft area, and I kept all my textbooks and things there, and you would hear, like, in heavy boxes, right? And we would hear as we were sleeping, the boxes would shift from left to right, like across the loft area from one wall to the other wall, and they were really, really heavy textbooks and boxes.
And the cat was
and-
fascinated with the loft.
We had a fan, like a standing tall fan, lifted from one side of the bed and thrown to the other side onto the floor.
It was, like she said, a heavy, tall steel fan, and right beside me, a foot away from me, was this fan. So when I turned around, it was laying in the middle of the room. And so from the distance, about 10 feet, right? And it would have to go over the bed and around the ladder that goes up to the loft, right? So I went to her name's Ashley. I said, Ashley, why didn't you pick the fan up? As soon as I said it, I realized I would have seen her.
Well, and you would
knock it over. I would have heard it
You
knock
should have
over.
heard it crash,
Yeah,
and it
so
didn't.
just when it came in my mouth, I was like, oh my god, again, right?
There were a couple times where we
Yeah.
didn't stay. Like, there were a couple
We had to
times
go.
where we were
Yeah.
too afraid, and we actually would leave the house.
Yeah.
And then when we finally moved out of the house, we went back to collect some of the last minute garbage and stuff like that, and the stench, it was like nothing you've ever smelled before. Like,
Yeah.
it was
like not animal waste. It was more pungent, but it was still
it was
thick.
terrible.
And like when we were literally there in the morning, and we came back a couple hours later, and it was so thick it was
It was
suffocate.
awful.
It was scary too. But it really started to escalate as when we moved in about 5 or 6 months in. And if anyone has a cat, you know that feeling when you wake up in the middle of the night and the cat's walking up your leg.
Mm-hmm.
So we always instinctually just go to pet the cat, and the cat's not there.
And then you realize the cat's outside.
So then we'd have toes being pulled, hair being pulled.
I used to yell at him. I would wake up and yell at him for pulling my hair.
Yeah, whispers. I always got like if someone came up with their fingers and went like right in your face, it would wake me up. And that would happen 2 or 3 times during the whole time we were there. We're just dead of night where you see your finger snap and you wake up and you're just shook, with fear.
Even our next, so we moved from that house to to an apartment.
Yeah.
And your mom actually bought us incense to bless the house so that we could, whatever was in that other house couldn't follow us. Yeah. And we really haven't ever had anything happen since.
Nope, never again.
What I was going to ask is, while you were living in that house, obviously you kept experiencing strange things, but did you feel like it was haunted, and did it bother you as you lived there?
You're always uneasy. You're never comfortable. At night, I was always. It's
a strange thing though.
You
because
get used to it, which
that's
is scary.
The weirdest thing is you actually.
Get used to it.
But you never are like, oh, it's okay. Like you're always afraid.
Yeah.
But then it's almost like the fear just becomes almost part of your day-to-day kind of life. So you get used to never feeling okay.
Yeah, we just would something would happen again, and then like the plates and all the noises we got used to.
Yeah.
When it would touch us, you hear things like the whispers and anything like that where it was escalate more than just sounds. We would just go, okay, let's just go somewhere else tonight, and then next day we'd come back.
Yeah.
And carry on.
So you would leave and stay elsewhere sometimes.
We would. Yeah.
We had lots of friends in town. We just go there, and they all like to talk about it, right? It was a story for them.
So you would just knock on the door and be like, the ghost's back again, so...
Yeah, basically, which just sounds like a weird thing to say, but I don't think there was ever a time where we, ran out screaming. The first one really scared us.
Oh, the light switch. This light switch, it's an old building, and we talked to our landowner and said, is there anyone else ever complained? She said no, but she told us this was Guelph itself is a very old city. So the building we lived in was the first ever Jewish-owned property that was allowed there, apparently, and it was an old butcher shop, too. So on the siding, when they took off the siding to replace it, you could see where there used to be a large Star of David. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but none of the neighbors, we talked to our neighbors, and no one had experienced anything. And nothing happened with us until I moved in.
Yeah, when I lived there by myself, there was, honestly, I never had nothing at all.
And you haven't had anything since you left that place?
No, we never have. Never.
No.
Back of our mind, we're kind of waiting,
Yeah.
It never really leaves you when it happens.
So you're expecting it to reappear.
Right? You never saw anything. It wasn't like a dramatic episode like you see in a movie.
No, it was not like that.
Hurled or screams.
Our cupboards were never all opened at the same time, or the touching we really didn't like.
That's
the touching was the really bad one.
Yeah, I must admit, me and Bob were talking about it, but before we start recording the pod this afternoon, and we were saying the stuff with the light switches and furniture moving around the house. As long as it wasn't really dramatic, we were saying I would probably find that really annoying, but not.
Well,
not
and
too
that's
scary.
when it gets to that point. But then it's annoying. But then you're like, I'm not doing this, and you're not doing this, and our windows are closed. There's no wind.
Yeah.
So that is very unsettling, and that's scary, and that there's something else with you that's doing it. It's not just, an object can't do it on its own, so that part is scary.
Yeah, but the light switches too, they were, to go back to that, they weren't like the modern ones where really you just flick it.
It was like a heavy...
The springs are inside, right? So there's pressure, you have to force it up, and it makes that loud click. Right?
Right.
So one night, because it was right beside our bed, we turned it off, and as soon as we got our heads down, which is, 3 seconds, click, it's sticking right back up, lights came on, right? That's how it was. You walk in, you go, oh, I'm not in the mood for this today.
Yeah.
Okay, the other thing we've been talking about is, so if a house is haunted by something you believe to be a ghost, what do you consider a ghost to be?
Oh, good question. I have no idea. If you think about it in a variety of things, I guess it could be, right?
Well, I just, based on our experience, I don't know that I would not be able to say, oh, it was masculine or oh, it was feminine. It was just experiences. It didn't feel like
it had a personality.
No, it didn't. It didn't feel like there was another person in the room with us. No. But it also didn't feel like it was you know, you see things on TV about demons and things like that. It didn't feel like that
Well,
either.
yeah,
It just felt like experiences that were happening in our home that we weren't doing or creating.
The smell thing
really scared us.
Me. Like, it was so thick. Like, it was, and if any of you are pet owners, you know what dog or cat waste smells like, and it wasn't that. It was as if like
rotting.
A whole frat party that was up drinking all night, only eating pizza and chicken wings, and they just went to town in your living room, right? It was so bad, and there was no source. So we had to clean the place. So we thought, okay,
we had just cleaned everything.
Nothing.
The water, we didn't turn the water off or the heat or the air or anything. Like, all the electricity, everything was still running the way it should have been. I mean, we even smelled, like, the bathroom and things like that, the pipes under the sink.
If you have, like, a mouse that dies and it has, like, that kind of smell, then you find it. But this was, like, as if
it was so thick. It was
everywhere,
so thick.
Everywhere. Every room was the same level. It's not like it was
dissipated or anything. It was so bad.
And that spooked me because I was like, oh, okay, whatever this is pissed.
Yeah.
So let's get our shit going.
Well, thanks for calling in. We really appreciate hearing from you.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
And you're getting married soon?
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks.
We are.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck with the wedding.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for calling.
Yeah.
No problem.
Take care, guys.
Let me know if you need anything else.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
Alright, bye-bye.
Now, we've talked about some haunted houses. We've listened to a few experiences. Read a few experiences. It's exactly where we were at the beginning of the show, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't know what this is.
Yeah, it's...
And it is all similar. I lived here, things I didn't know happened, I don't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've moved out.
Now I moved out.
Yeah.
Do you think you could live with it?
It depends on what it was. I think, like, if I was downstairs and I just went downstairs, or I turned all the lights off and everything. If I then went back upstairs and I was on my own in the house and the light was on, I could live with that. I'd be like, oh, okay, it's Jeffrey the ghost again. If I would turn the switch off and then it turned on immediately, like in front of my finger, that would really freak me out.
What about if every time you went to brush your teeth, you looked up in the mirror and there was a face behind you?
Yeah, I'd move out.
Every time.
Instantly. Instantly.
If you're trying to sleep and they're just going...
You know what I'm like, I haven't got a high scare threshold.
Well, we've said this before, none of us do, do we?
Scare threshold.
I think we're all quite wimpish.
Yeah, definitely.
So I talked about haunted places in the US, talked about haunted places in the UK. I'm just going to say about a couple of renowned haunted places around the world. You've got the Skirrid Inn in Wales. When I said US, UK, I actually meant US, England, because there's so many in England, so I've included Wales, Scotland, and everything in the rest of the world.
Okay.
No offence to any of our Scottish listeners, because we have quite a few Scottish listeners.
Awesome.
And Scotland's a lovely place.
It is.
Again, this is all the thing where it's like site of numerous hangings over the centuries, and Rose Hall in Jamaica, former plantation, voodoo practice. Yeah.
Really?
Again, it's bad things happen. There's echoes of it.
Voodoo Mama Juju.
Voodoo Mama Juju. Borgvatnet in Sweden, the haunted vicarage.
Vicarage.
It's had hauntings reported there since 1927. Banff Springs Hotel in Canada. Family was murdered in room 873. The room was bricked up and the family is still seen. Also, a bride fell down the stairs because her dress caught light. And you see a woman in a wedding dress roaming the place.
A charred wedding dress.
Well, they say you can sometimes see smoke on it.
Really?
Yeah. 60s bellboy called Sam sometimes helps guests to their room, turns on lights and opens doors. Last one, Monte Cristo. The Monte Cristo homestead in Australia had a number of tragic events. They were talking about tragic events. Okay. A child was dropped down the stairs and killed.
Ooh.
A maid fell from the balcony and died. A stable boy was burned to death. There was a mentally ill man named Harold, who was the caretaker's son, who was chained up there for 40 years, found curled up next to the body of his dead mother.
Lovely.
And another caretaker was murdered. All them bad things happen in this place. What do you get? Haunted house.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Bad stuff. Haunted
That
house.
seems to be the common factor, right? I'm just going to scout over a couple of places that aren't houses as such, like I did for the other places. Edinburgh Castle, Island of the Dolls in Mexico. whispers and stuff heard there. Chateau de Brissac in France, A Lady in Green. The Castle of Good Hope, South Africa, a crying woman heard and seen. Bubenhausen Barracks in Germany, World War II soldiers seen. The Old Changi Hospital in Singapore, bloody soldiers, wandering children seen. So many. Forbidden City in China, Greyfriars Kirkyard in Scotland, which I've been to.
Really?
The Hellfire Club in Ireland, Fort George in Canada, Lawang Sewu in Indonesia, Pereglia Island in Italy, and the Akershus Fortress in Norway, all renowned haunted places throughout the world.
It's interesting you said the Hellfire thing, because the Hellfire Caves in Wickham.
Yeah, we have some near us.
Yeah, my wife went there like on a school holiday years ago with her grandparents, and she said it was horrible.
I've been there, it's very interesting. Caves.
Caves are different though, aren't they? Caves do feel scary.
So, like I say, there's no ghost story of the week this week because we've heard an episode's worth of ghost stories. If you want to contact us, unexplainableuk@mail.com. Our next episode is Beef hosting. It's
Demon Possession next time.
So if you've got any stories about that, message us. Our episode after that, Tis, what's your next episode?
A psychedelic experience.
If you have any strange psychedelic experiences, contact Tis. And we're going to have a special episode for our 10th one, which we won't go into now. But then my next episode will be visiting a haunted location. It'll be our first road trip episode. If you want to visit the blog, I'll put up some links. I'll put up some of the websites I was using today on the blog for the haunted houses. I'll put up a link to the guy's story I said about at the beginning. The one I was using a lot of is placesyou'llsee.com, so I'll put that on there. Like I said, we've bought ourselves a portable recorder now, so we're going to try and do some stuff on the move. And we appreciate any donations you throw away because, you know, this is all out of our own pocket. We love doing it, but if you want to help out, you can. If you go to unexplainable.podomatic.com, on the right-hand side, you'll see a donate button for PayPal, and we'd love that, wouldn't we?
That'd be awesome.
You got anything else to say about haunted houses?
I don't think so.
Tis, you got anything else to say about haunted houses?
Nope.
Well, until next time. Oh man, I had one and I can't remember it.
Oh, why didn't you write it down?
Yeah, I know.